Next up, we are going from the digital world. You've heard from Jim Rickards, you've heard from ABC Bullion, Jeremy Samuel. Next up, we have Dr. Andrew Tunks. He's the Managing Director of Meteoric Resources. ASX code, write it down, MEI. These guys are kicking some goals, aren't you, Andrew? Welcome to the virtual gold conference here on Zoom.
Thank you, Kerry. Yes, I believe we are kicking some goals. We've had a great 2 years since the company refocused its outlook and focused solely on gold. And since that time, we've had an amazing amount of drilling success. So yes, we are kicking some goals.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you do have two projects, and we're going to cover both of those today. And I know that you've been working pretty hard on getting the drilling done, etc. So there's a project here in Australia, in Western Australia, which is
right.
Very exciting. Lots of news flow coming from that, and Brazil. So let's start with an overview of those projects, and then we'll move into a little bit of detail.
Sure. I'll just share my screen, Kerry, so people can see where the projects are. So we acquired, after a change in focus, we acquired a project in Brazil in 2019. It's in the southern part of the Amazon basin, so it's quite remote, and has been difficult to work in the early stages of this year with the Brazilian COVID situation, and that prompted us to acquire an Australian project, which we picked up in 2020 in July, and we've moved very fast on that project to get out there and drilling. And I was really pleased in your introduction. You said that we're drilling. And one thing, I know you've got a lot of new investors in this forum. One thing I would tell investors about exploration is the only time that a company can make a discovery is when it's drilling. So when you're looking at a company and you want to decide whether you should invest, have a look at how much drilling they've done and how much of their money is going into the ground, because that's really the only thing that counts. How are we going to make a discovery if not at the drill bit? And that's why our company focuses very hard on drilling and exploration success.
That's a really, really good point, Andrew, that if you're not drilling, you're not finding. If you're not finding, and for those new investors out there, please take note of that. That is very salutary advice. Thanks, Andrew.
So we acquired the Palm Springs project this year, and that's been where we've been very active, although Western Australia has also been difficult, obviously, with the state borders closed. But we certainly put together a team. We only picked up the project in July. We've done our first drilling campaign. We've just completed it, and the results, we've had one set of results come out to the market, and we've got another set due to come right now. Within the next week or so, results are just starting to come through from the lab. So I just talk a little bit about the Western Australian project, Kerry. It was a mine back in the late 1990s. It was a small gold mine that produced around 50,000 ounces. And that was at a very low gold price time. And the mine outcropped in the north, and as we go south, it gets gradually deeper. This is a function of geology called the plunge, okay? And the plunge tells you where it goes in the vertical. So it's going, as we go from north to south, the ore body's getting slightly deeper. And when the gold price is low and the ore body goes down, you can't necessarily remove the stuff that's on top of it. And this mine, unfortunately, went underwater at a gold price of around $300 US in the late 90s, went into care and maintenance, and has sat there for 20 years.
Wow.
For us, that's a fantastic opportunity, because you can see here in this cross section. So a cross section is a vertical slice through the earth, and those traces that you can see are drill holes. And those results are drilling results. So if we look at the top one, 31 meters at 2.41. So a good way for your new investors to look at drilling is to multiply roughly the thickness of the intercept by the grade of the intercept. Okay, we call that a grade thickness, and that's a really good measure of quality. Anything over 50 is a great result. Anything over 100 is a stellar result. So 31 meters at 2.4, that gives you a grade thickness of, 70 or 80. And that's a great result. Look at the hole beneath that, 50 at 3, okay, 3.3. That's a grade thickness at over 150, and that tells you, this is a really robust ore body. It just, the economics weren't right in the 90s, but I tell you, the economics are right now. And you can see in this cross section, that blue line that I've just introduced, that was where they planned to mine to back then. Even at that low gold price, that was the plan. But the mine went bust before they could get there. So all that ore that you can see now, and I'll just highlight that a little bit. That pink zone there, that's ore, and that's there for us. And we think that's that's the immediate opportunity for us. Sorry, I've just lost my screen.
We haven't lost the screen. You might have, but we're still showing.
Okay. And so that's an immediate mining opportunity. This ground is on mining licenses, so we don't need to reapply for mining licenses. That can be years in the making in Australia to get a mining license. So this is already on mining licenses. What we have to do is get out there and drill, prove up that the old mineralisation is there. Now we know it's there, but for the JORC code, we have to prove that, and then we have to extend it. So the next slide is all new drilling. I'll just get rid of that. I can't do it. Sorry, there's that red mark on the screen still. But this is new drilling, okay? This is the drilling that we've just done. 10 metres at 2.4, 53 metres at 2.14, 56 at 2.7. They're fantastic intercepts. And they've shown us that this ore body is continuing. And perhaps the best way to look at that is Kerry, I can't.
Oh, don't worry about it, Tunksy. Honestly,
sorry,
Andrew. It's fine. We love a red squiggle on a screen.
Well, hopefully that's where the ore is, Kerry. That's typically what we use to show. So this is a Google Earth image looking down from space into the old pit, and the area that I was just talking about was really this area in the center there, just around that red circle. And the red dots are our new drilling, the white dots are the old drilling. But we see that there's room down dip here, there's the stuff that's under the pit, and then our new drilling has shown, massive intercepts of 50 plus meters at greater than 2 grams. Importantly, and this is another thing that people should know, when you explore for gold, you very seldom see it. That's why we have to have assays. So we send the core off to the lab, and we find out how much gold is in the core. But gold's in parts.
And sorry, Andrew, to interrupt you. I'm just letting those people know that because it's early in the day today. Core is just the rock that they drill out, which can show. Would that be the best way to describe it?
That's right. Yeah. So it comes out like a long stick, or that's in diamond drilling, or in RC drilling, it comes out as small chips. Yeah. But it's effectively the sample that we're taking of the earth. And what happens there is that we crush that up and we send it to the lab, and the lab analyze it for gold. But gold amounts are very low, so you very seldom see it. In fact, you don't typically see gold until it's around 30 grams per ton, 30 parts per million. Anything less than that, 2-3 grams, you virtually don't see gold. So we often go by the other minerals that come with the gold, the pyrite, which is a sulfide, chalcopyrite, whatever that is, and alteration. So while the gold is difficult to see, the things that came into the rock with the gold are typically pretty easy to see. But this deposit is looking so good. We saw gold in a few cores. Now, excitingly, none of those results have been released to the market yet. And the first one of those will be coming in our next release, which is imminent. We're just starting to get the assays through from the lab now. So we think this is, we've defined already 700 meters of gold deposit. And we're excited by that. It's all in a mining lease. We think this is a near-term production opportunity, which is great. It's very hard for small companies like us to make the transition from explorer to producer.
Yeah.
And I believe in Western Australia, we're on the cusp of that. And 2021, we'll really be able to show that. We'll do some more drilling. We'll pump the pit out of water. We'll do some grade control drilling. We'll get our environmental things in place. And in theory, in this great gold price environment, we should be able to start mining pretty soon. So it's a very exciting opportunity.
Andrew, is it in terms of location, is there much infrastructure around there? Is it fairly remote? I'm just trying to picture.
Yeah, so we're in the Kimberley, near a town called Halls Creek, a very famous town, in fact, for gold. It was the first place that gold was ever discovered in Western Australia, way before Kalgoorlie. Of course, Kalgoorlie was such a big find that what happened was when Kalgoorlie was discovered, it sucked everyone down to that location. So this is a well-known gold producing area. There is another gold mine operating not too far away. In fact, it's run by Pantoro. It's called Nicholson's Find. And in fact, back in the 90s, when this, which is called Butcher's Creek, was a mine, the Nicholson's Find ore body was also being mined at that time, and they were both treated here at this project. So, you know, there's no reason why, given the right environment, that we couldn't treat our ore down at Pantoro once again. But of course, if our discovery is big enough, which you know, it's looking fantastic at the moment, we'd be building our own plant,
right,
and be masters of our own destiny. So, but both work very well, and there's lots of toll treating arrangements throughout the country where people mine stuff but don't process it themselves. They pay someone else to process the gold, and it saves you an enormous amount in capital. It means your processing costs are higher because they have to make a profit, but it means that you don't have to spend, you know, $50 million building your own plant.
And I guess the core takeaway from the, excuse the pun, the core takeaway. The takeaway from this is there's visible gold in the what you're taking at the moment, which is that unusual?
Well, as I said before, it's not common. You don't often see gold. And so we would expect that the places where we've seen gold, we would expect to be getting some pretty spectacular results for our exploration. And like I said, our first release didn't cover any of those 3 holes where we saw the gold. Now, so, you know, fingers crossed, we'll be getting some really spectacular results out to the market from those holes in the very near future. And so now that's really where we're at with Halls Creek and Palm Springs. Just quickly, we'll go and have a look at JURUENA, which is in Brazil. In JURUENA, now again, this is a place where I tell people, look at the thickness versus the grade and multiply those numbers together. So our first hole in Brazil, 20 meters at 95, right? That's nearly 2,000 grams per meter. In fact, it very close to 2,000 gram meters. That was one of the best intercepts drilled on the whole ASX from any exploration company in 2019. That was a truly spectacular result. And we've delivered a whole bunch of them. So what that says is our exploration drilling and our strategies are working really well in Brazil. We've continued to deliver those results this year. But importantly, we've also noticed that we have an association between gold and copper. So when we first went to this, it was a gold deposit only. But as we've grown in our knowledge and drilled in some different areas, we've realized that there is also gold and copper. Now they're not quite together. They're a little bit apart, both in terms of time. So we don't think that they're all happening at the same time. We think the gold copper is early and the gold only is a little bit later. Now that could be millions of years, but of course, these things all happened nearly 2 billion years ago. So it's very hard to know, Kerry, but that's our current interpretation. We believe that this opens up some really exciting opportunities for us. And if you look at some of the world's great deposits, okay, have gold and copper together. And it's really common in Chile, in the highlands of New Guinea. There's a lot of places where this occurs. It occurs in a particular geological environment. And when you're in that environment, the chances of making what we would call a tier 1, which really means a monster discovery, are greatly enhanced. And so that's really our focus. We picked up this project because we thought it might be 1 million ounces of gold, but our thinking has changed. And now we think, yes, there's probably that gold there, but in addition, there's a much larger gold copper system associated with it. And that's really what our exploration is is talking about now. Now, I've just put up another slide, Kerry, and I know that for the non-geological people, it's pretty confusing. And I would say, forget 90% of it. This is what we call a geological model. And it's trying to explain everything, but we don't need to explain everything here. We only need to look at a couple of little bits of it. And I'll focus people in on that. And it's those yellow circles. And that is where the gold deposits occur in the porphyry system. So if we looked at Chile, for example, as the world's greatest porphyry area, we know that there are a lot of gold-only deposits like El Indio, for example, that are in the area. And they occur a little bit away from the porphyry coppers, and they just have gold, or they might have gold, silver, or a variety of metals, but they're all driven by the porphyry copper itself. And the porphyry copper is an injection of hot molten material that has metal, and as it solidifies and turns into rock, it lets that metal and water out, and we create these massive deposits. So there's gold deposits associated, but the other prize is potentially the porphyry copper itself. And in our thoughts, it can be a gold porphyry copper. So you get gold, and you can also have you can have tellurides, molybdenum, you can have a whole bunch of metals. But what we've seen of little bits of this at the moment tells us that it's a gold copper system. We believe it's not at the surface, it's deep in our system. So we've been doing a geophysical technique called IP, which looks not for the gold or the copper, but for the sulfide minerals. So pyrite, chalcopyrite, they are the minerals that hold the gold and the copper. And you pump electricity into the ground, and if there's enough of those minerals, you set up currents, and we can see those currents underground. And so we look for that. And we've just finished our survey. We're processing the results now, so I don't have any results to hand, but we're pretty excited by the potential of this. If we're right, then Meteoric goes from being a minnow of a market cap of 70 into a whole other stratosphere. These are monster deposits with hundreds of millions of tons, and are true company makers. So very, very exciting times for us, and we're very buoyant about our opportunities in both Brazil and in Palm Springs.
Andrew, why you mentioned that the porphyry is the monster and it could be holding a lot of copper. Why, for those that are listening, why is copper important as a metal today?
Absolutely, that's a good question. Copper is famous for a couple of things, but the best one at the moment, and why it's important today, is its ability to conduct electricity. Okay, and as we move into EV, electric vehicles and power generation through wind farms and solar and everything else, they all require enormous amounts of conductive material to transport that electricity. Okay, and so an electric vehicle requires 4 to 5 times the copper that a traditional petrol vehicle does. So the demand for copper, as we move away from fossil fuels into regenerable electricity, will only go up. And so we think copper is a great metal to be in. And copper gold, well, I mean, gold's my favorite. Yeah. I'm a gold guy like you, Kez.
Yeah.
And but if you can find copper and gold together, I think that's a great mix in the world as we know it at the moment, given the state of technology and development. Yeah.
Andrew, we've got 1 minute left. I'd love you to just tell our audience why now is the time to get involved with Meteoric Resources.
Well, for the last 2 years, we've delivered some of the best drill results on the ASX. We've got more results to come. We've got results coming from both Brazil and Palm Springs in the north. We're still drilling in JURUENA in Brazil, but we've just finished in Palm Springs. We'll be starting again as soon as the weather allows. We've shown that we are a successful, exciting exploration company. We know how to drill, we know how to get results, and over the next couple of years, it's my firm belief that we'll be translating those results into developing mines. And that's the most exciting time of all, Kez. We get to go and dig it up and turn it into something, and that's very exciting. And I'd love to have your listeners join us. Exploration is the greatest adventure. It's the hunt for the treasure, and I'd love to have them jump on. And very happy to talk about about it at any time to investors who want to get an insight into what we're doing. So feel free to reach out. Thanks, Kes.
Andrew Tunks, the treasure hunter who's getting closer to the monster. Thanks for joining us on the Virtual Gold Conference.
Thank you, Kerry. Cheers.